Sophie stood on her yoga mat, barefoot, her feet hip-width apart, hands at her heart center, palms pressed gently together. Her body was still, but inside, her mind was in turmoil. She had been struggling with lower back pain for months now, a result of long hours spent hunched over her computer. Her physical discomfort had grown into something more than just pain. It had become a daily reminder that her body was asking for help, for movement, for healing. Today, she decided to try a new variation of the sun salutation sequence, one designed to focus on spinal flexibility and strength and full body engagement. She inhaled deeply, feeling her chest expand as she slowly brought her hands down to her sides, then made a wide, graceful circle upwards, her arms reaching above her head in a long, upward stretch. She felt the muscles in her arms and shoulders lengthen, and her back extend. The inhalation brought a sense of space and openness to her chest, a welcome relief from the tightness she had been carrying there for days. As she exhaled, she lowered her arms, bending forward, letting gravity guide her into a forward fold. Her hamstrings were tight, and the pull along the back of her legs reminded her of her body's need for this release. She allowed her head to hang heavy, breathing through the stretch. The gentle tugging at her lower back was uncomfortable, but with each breath, she felt it start to soften, as if her muscles were finally yielding to the movement. On the next inhale, she straightened her spine, bringing her gaze forward. The extension felt like a reset button for her back, encouraging alignment in her vertebrae, and she could feel the subtle activation of her core muscles as she worked to maintain the posture. Her breath filled her lungs completely, and for a moment, she felt lighter. Exhaling again, she stepped her right leg back into a low lunge, her left knee bent in front. She felt the stretch in her hips and thighs intensify, but it was the good kind of stretch, the kind that made her feel grounded in her body. Lifting her arms above her head, palms facing each other, she entered a back bend. Her chest opened wide, and she focused on deep breathing. The pose was challenging, but as she pressed her hips down and reached up through her fingertips, she could feel her spine lengthening, strengthening with each breath. With each movement, Sophie was reconnecting with her body, listening to what it needed. She repeated the sequence on the other side, her breath guiding her through each step. Her muscles warmed, and the tightness in her lower back began to fade, replaced by a growing sense of fluidity. The pain that had felt so rigid and immovable now felt like something she could work through, soften, and eventually release. After completing the sequence, Sophie lowered herself into a seated position on her mat, her hands resting gently on her knees. She took a few moments to breathe deeply, noticing the changes in her body. Her spine felt longer, her chest more open, and her back, though still sore, felt more mobile. The stiffness that had been her constant companion for weeks had eased, leaving behind a feeling of relief and possibility. Sophie smiled, knowing she was one step closer to healing. The sun salutation variation had not only addressed her pain, but also brought her a sense of calm and connection to her breath. It had reminded her of the importance of movement and breath in managing discomfort and stress, a lesson she would carry with her beyond the yoga mat. Later that day, she texted her friend Lily, who had been complaining about similar back issues. "You should try this yoga flow I did today," she wrote. "It's a variation of the sun salutation, and it's all about stretching and strengthening the spine. My back feels so much better, and it's amazing for opening up the chest and engaging the whole body. Plus, the breathing really helps with stress. I think it would be great for you." Sophie would recommend this sequence to anyone dealing with back pain or simply looking to reconnect with their body through mindful movement. It was a practice of healing, both physically and mentally, and she knew her journey had only just begun.